All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to dive into something you do all day, every day, without even thinking about it, the hidden grammar of actions. It's the system we use to talk about everything from, chopping an onion to winning a race, and the logic behind it is actually surprisingly elegant.
So, how does your language pull this off? How can one simple sentence be so solid in its meaning, but at the same time flexible enough that you can just keep painting it with more and more detail? Okay, let's just take a super simple action. This is our core event. It's a clean picture, right? You've got an agent, the chef, an action, the chopping, and a target, the onions. Simple enough.
But life is rarely that simple. We can say the chef chopped the onions quickly, or maybe with a knife, or in the kitchen, or hey, all of the above, and our brains just handle it. We effortlessly add these layers of detail. But how? How do we logically keep track of all that without the whole meaning becoming a tangled mess?
And that right there, that's the puzzle. How does our grammar deal with all these optional extra parts so flawlessly? For a long time, this was a massive headache for logicians. But the answer, when it finally came, was a total game changer.
And the solution? Well, it came along in 1967. And this wasn't just some small update. It was a full-blown revolution in how we think about the language of action. So a philosopher named Donald Davidson comes along with this totally radical idea. He said, what if the action itself, the chopping, isn't just a word? What if it's a thing, an event that actually exists, something we can point to and describe, just like you describe a table or a chair? You really can't overstate how huge this shift was. See, before, logicians were trying to create a new, ridiculously complicated formula for every single possible variation of the sentence. It was a complete nightmare. The new way? Oh, it's just beautifully simple. It says there was one central event, let's just call it E, and then you just list the facts about it. E was a chopping. The chef was the agent of E. It was quick. It was done with a knife. Each detail is just another simple fact we're adding about the very same event. And this whole idea has a name, event semantics. It's this simple but really profound idea that our action sentences have a hidden variable for the event itself. And that just unlocked a whole new way to analyze the grammar of actions with incredible precision.
So now that linguists had this powerful new tool in their hands, they could finally start mapping the properties of these event things in a really systematic way.
It really comes down to a few key thinkers who built this whole thing. You had Davidson, who had that revolutionary spark. In the very same year, another thinker, Zeno Vendler, started classifying different types of events. He was the one who realized, hey, not all actions are the same. And then, decades later, Terence Parsons came along and formalized it all into the modern system we use today.
And what Vendler figured out is that not all actions are created equal. He saw that some verbs describe an activity, like running, which could technically go on forever. But other verbs describe an accomplishment, like building a house, which has a natural, logical end. I mean, you can't just keep building a house after it's, well, built, right? And that difference turns out to be grammatically super important.
So, all this groundwork led to these different modern approaches. And honestly, the best way to think about them is like different architectural blueprints for modeling the very same event structures we've been talking about.
So, one blueprint is called dynamic syntax. It sees understanding a sentence as this live, unfolding process. As you hear the words, the chef chopped, your brain is actively building the structure, a sort of tree of meaning. Each new word is like an instruction that adds a new branch, quickly modifies the chopping. With a knife adds the instrument, and you just keep building until the whole picture of the event is complete.
Now, another approach, HPSG, is totally different. It's less like a live process and more like a set of strict laws or rules. Think of it like a legal contract for the sentence. The verb chopped has this hidden tag and index that basically gives the event a name. And the grammar then has these rigid rules that say this specific event had to have happened in the past, these words participants, and so on. No exceptions.
And then you've got categorial grammars, which are definitely the most mathematical of the bunch. They treat words kind of like puzzle pieces with very specific shapes, or types. A noun has one shape, a verb another, and they only fit together in very specific logical ways. It's a method that lets you rigorously prove how the words you see on the surface combine to create that hidden logical structure of the event underneath.
Okay, so we've found this really elegant hidden logic for events. Awesome. But does every single language on Earth use the same blueprint?
Well, the answer is, it's complicated. While that core idea, that actions are events, seems to be universal,
the specific rules can change a lot. You look at Japanese, and suddenly word order is doing things that just don't fit neatly into these models. Or in Romance languages, when you turn a verb like construct into a noun like construction, the meaning can take on a life of its own in unpredictable ways. Each language, it seems, has its own unique way of packaging the details of an event.
So what does this all tell us? It shows us that underneath the surface of our words, doesn't matter if it's English, Japanese, or Greek, there's this incredibly powerful and systematic engine just for making sense of the world and all the actions happening in it. This hidden grammar of events is what lets us communicate with such amazing nuance and flexibility.
And that leaves us with this one final, really profound question to think about. Is this grammar of events just a feature of our language, or is it a blueprint for human thought itself, a single, universal logic just spoken in 1,000 different tongues?